The light of the world has been in Tibet and China and India for a very long time. That has been shifted into South America, and so South America is going to be the new Tibet of the world. And not all of it, but it's actually centered in a place in northern Chile, but it encompasses a huge area of South America. We've, from what the indigenous people from all over the world, not just ones that we're familiar with, but from all over, they're in agreement that we have entered into a unique and special time in the history of the world. And it's a time where we are about to move from one way of being into a completely different way of being. And we can't see that right now. I mean, we can hint at it, we can feel, we can see that there is tremendous change happening around us. But the kinds of changes that are about to occur, they will be rather surprising to people because they have a different kind of nature this time we're running into. It has a nature where the old ways, the ways that we're used to and are familiar, begin to dissolve away in ways that are somewhat disconcerting. At the same time, new ways begin to replace them that are very refreshing because they're loving, they're kind, they're easy. They're the kinds of thing mommy does to child, you know, and the ideas that we have held, for example, Star Wars, where we have the concept that the universe is fighting with each other. We're going to discover this isn't true. That actually the universe is a living being and it's conscious and it's very old, and it cares about itself in lots of ways. And so, like I said, the ideas of Star Wars are just really a mental fear of humans. In truth, the universe really does everything it can to help each other. And we're entering into a time where that's going to become obvious. Where it looks helpless, we're going to find support. And where everything just looks like there's just no way out, we're going to find the way out. We're going to see the light to go through it. And so it's a time of great hope that we're entering into. The Mayans specifically, when they talk, they call this time the end of time, because it's the end of a very long cycle, and it's the beginning of a new cycle. It isn't like everything just comes to an end. It's just the end of one cycle and the beginning of the other. But it depends on which part of the cycle the Mayans are talking about. If they're talking about the old part of the cycle, which is what we're familiar with, that's the banking systems, the religions, the governments, and all this kind of stuff, that's going to become extremely unstable. And if they're correct, it's going to break apart completely and dissolve away. But in its place is a brand new way of being, a way that we haven't seen on Earth in almost anybody's lifetime in a long, long, thousands and thousands of years, where fear goes away. We are about to the end of polarity, and the ideas of good and evil, the entire structure of what good and evil means, which is much more complex. If you look at the idea of good and evil, or good and bad, no matter what polarity you think of, you'll also see that there's a third one. So if you get hot and cold, there's warm. If you go up and down, there's the middle. If you go the sun and the earth, there's the moon. If you go male and female, there's child. On and on and on. Our time is past, present, and future. Space is X, Y, Z axis. And this is all a function of how we're interpreting the one reality. That one reality isn't going to change, but our consciousness is going to change. And when it does, we're going to drop that. We're not going to see that anymore. And instead, we're going to see the unity of all life. And in the perception of that, when that perception changes, then it changes everything. and all our sense of lack, of need, or can't do this, or we have to heal. All those things go away. They just end. And we then realize that the whole universe is one living being. And there is only one spirit moving through everything, and one consciousness. A new way of perceiving enters into life on Earth, and we, in our lifetime, are going to experience this. I mean, right now, at this moment, in 2008, it just seems, can't be. The world is crazy. You know, they're at war, they're trying to kill each other, the financial systems are ready to break apart, and on and on and on. But that's not what the ancient ones on this planet are saying. They're saying, finally, we are entered into this place, and we are about to see something brand new. It's really very old, actually. It isn't that there is a mission. It isn't that there's really anything to do. It is about transformation, and it's vibration, it's beingness rather than doing. Doingness is, or having to do or having to accomplish, is part of polarity consciousness. But we're going to enter into a state soon, and we have actually already entered into it. We just aren't. It's still a baby. It's still growing. But the very idea of needing to do something in order to accomplish something, or that we need something because we feel like we lack it, just will be obsolete. Those ideas won't even enter into us, because we will have the ability to achieve anything instantly on any level of existence imaginable. We are about to gain control of the dreaming state of the heart. And that is the place where creation took place in the first place. We think that we're living on a planet that's floating around the sun. It isn't true. There is no planet, there is no sun. There isn't anything, it's just pure consciousness and nothing more. And the images that we are looking at, the stars, the planets, and the moons and everything, are really a dream that it was created in the heart a long time ago. And when we enter back into the state of the living heart, we begin to dream the way we did millions of years ago, we'll realize that we can just change anything. In the beginning, when that takes place, it's funny because people get excited about it, actually, because usually what happens, because we've watched this on other planets and other places and other times, is that they go, oh wow, and they start fixing everything in their body, and they heal everything, and then they give themselves all kinds of money and everything they think they need, and then they realize, well, there's more than that, and all those things kind of go to the wayside, and then they begin to, another thing they do is make themselves very beautiful, because you can change anything in your body, it's just an image. Eventually you come to the place where you realize there's a lot more. And that's when the new cycle really begins. It's a journey. It's a journey that's really, we're in the past of this journey. It's already happened. And what life is about to do is something that is never done before, ever. It's the first time ever since the creation of this, is that it's decided to speed things up. And so instead of taking millions of years to make these different levels of steps, they're going to be done sometimes in minutes. And we are about to go like the speed of light through evolution, and up through many, many levels that takes really billions and billions of years normally to achieve. And we're going to reach this very quickly. In fact, experientially, about 2 years. It would normally take at least 10 or 15 billion years to get there. And then once we get there, I can't tell you what'll happen then. I don't know. That's between us and God. And by that point, we're going to realize we are God. And so I don't know where it goes when we get to the end of a certain point, because that's where I came from. I went backwards in time, backwards through the levels. it took forever, in the way that humans are thinking. And to get back to this place, once we get there, that's when that's when the brand new part really begins, and I can't tell you what that is. I don't really think there's any words or anything within the human imagination that could even begin to enter into that space. When I introduced the Merkaba to the world, so many people misunderstood. They thought that that was everything, that that was the most important thing in the world. And actually in consciousness, it is the least important. We have mapped human consciousness out very carefully, and we know exactly how it works. And the Merkaba, which is around the body, is the screen. Out here at your fingertips, there's a sphere of energy, and that is the screen from which the images are projected onto. This is using human words to say something that's slightly beyond humanness, but it's still, the idea works. The images are projected onto this sphere around us, which we call the universe. The universe isn't there, it's just it's just pure consciousness that surrounds each one of us. And but from there, inside of the human head, is a complex set of there's 4 glands and it's very much like a computer. It's really a lot like a computer. And there is a system in there that we've long forgotten. Jesus remembered it. Whenever you look at a shot of Jesus, you usually see these 3 beams of light coming out of his head. There's actually 8 of them, but you can't see them all from the front position. And those beams of light are tied into the pineal gland. Around those beams of light is a sphere of energy that moves around there, and then inside the pineal gland there are 8 beams of light that come out in a set of 4. And then that pineal gland is an eyeball. It is literally the third eye. It is hollow. It has color receptors inside of it. It has a lens on top of it. And that is connected behind it to something that's squeezed around it called the thalamus. And the thalamus gland, or glands, there's 2 of them, have a long tube that go down to the roof of the mouth. And I'm just going backwards in all of this. In front of the pineal gland, there's 2 more glands, a little pair of them up here, so there's the pituitary glands. And in front of that, there's another chakra point out in space that is the distance from the tip of your nose to the tip of your tip of your nose to the tip of your chin, out here in front of you. And when all those glands are lined up, and there's a very specific way you do that, which has to do with your tongue, because your tongue is the key to higher consciousness. These things all seem strange until you actually understand how they work. Actually, I can tell you very quickly. When you look at human conception, it begins as a sphere, which is the ovum. Sperm comes in and conception takes place. And then it divides into 2 through mitosis. Then it divides into 4 and forms a perfect tetrahedron. Then it goes into 8 and forms a star tetrahedron, which is the key to the Merkaba. Then which is a cube, and then it continues to growing, and this is in one of the books, where it then forms an apple shape that is hollow inside. That's at 512 cells. And that is the, and in the book we stopped there. Well, if you continue on with pure medical research and just study the books, what that becomes is the heart. And there is a stage of development where every one of us was in our mommy's womb, and our body, our entire body, was our heart, and nothing more. And then, at one stage, our body came out of the heart and emerged out, our hands and our feet and our head and everything like that, and the heart was tucked in, and we became the fetus that we were familiar with. Just from that, you can see why the heart is more important than the brain. It's older. It's more established. But what is the first part of the human body that comes out of the heart? The very first thing. It's the tip of the tongue. The tip of the tongue emerges out. And so intuitively you can see that the tip of the tongue is directly connected to the sacred space of the heart, where creation takes place. And so when one is in their heart, and they must be in their heart, not in their brain, and they're sitting inside the sacred space of the heart, and they put the tip of the tongue on the roof of their mouth and begin to massage a very specific spot, it causes a sexual stimulation between the heart and the brain. It stimulates the thalamus. That begins to fire alpha in the four lobes of the brain. And when the alpha reaches a certain level of firing, this green light will appear that is talked about all the way back into the Vedas 6,000 years ago. It sometimes is green-blue and sometimes is green-yellow, but it always has a green tinge to it. And then at that point, even in the Great White Brotherhood, they talk about bending the flame with intention. You turn the third eye so it's looking straight up, actually. Instead of these look this way, that one looks this way up. You turn it till it looks toward the third eye point. And then through a certain meditative state, the green light turns into a spiral or concentric rings, and it links with the pituitary, and then you look through it to the other end, at which point a halo forms around your head, which is scientifically documented. And that is, at that moment, whatever you dream in your heart becomes reality. And that image passes out through the outer edge, not in the body. Stanford has been trying to find the neurological link, and they can't find it because it's not in the body, it's on the outside. It moves over the toroidal fields that are outside, the electromagnetic fields, and then it comes into that point, first projects around the head and then projects around the body. And so if you were to dream an image, it becomes the reality that the entire universe now lives in. And so it can create from nothing. When you create from that way, no one in the universe knows it's happened except you, or a group, if there's a group of people doing it, because it changes everything, past, present, and future. And all trace of the old way has no longer exist. It's just like changing a channel on a TV. It isn't there anymore. This creation ability, of which is within every single human being in existence, it is this ability to create, which is our birthright. That is what the earth is about to remember. This is not a learning process. It's a remembering process. And we are about, slowly, people all over the world are going to start remembering what this is about. You're going to see the world begin to change in ways, but you won't remember the old way unless you were part of the creation. And slowly, we're going to end into another way. We always know that the way that it will be created is always a good way, because the heart will never do anything that is detrimental to anything else, because the heart knows all life is one. And so it doesn't think in polarity. It never thinks me and you are outside. It always looks for an image that is good for all life everywhere. And so this process is not one where there's any fear involved in this at all. It's a process that is used by babies and children. And from the Hindu point of view, initially are called the siddhas. They are the powers. And there is a danger initially, because you can enter into certain levels of this from the brain only. In other words, through the ego, while the ego is fully intact. And so, and if the person can't get the ego out of the way and the ego takes over, then that's serious, because you just lost a huge opportunity. And so that it is that what the Hindus are speaking, why it's dangerous, because you could lose your spiritual life for a while. You'll still come back, because God lives in every single one. There's no such thing as being lost forever. You can make a detour, but you'll always come back. And there's no hell or anything like this. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but the Pope declared that before he died. He actually said it to the world. He said, "I'm sorry, we made up this whole dream about the hell, and there isn't any." And he apologized for doing that. It was just to control people. But the brain can create dreams that are not nice, and in a way it's kind of true at another level. It can control people, but that's in polarity. Polarity is about to dissolve away. We're not going to have access to it. The reason we won't have access to it is because in order for polarity to exist, there has to be an electromagnetic grid around the Earth. And that grid is about to be taken away from the planet. And the only access you will have is to the old way, which is unity, which is what the indigenous people are on, or the new way, which is also a higher level of unity grid. You're going to be in one of those two, because there's not going to be one in the middle. And so once that other grid is dropped, which is soon, we're waiting for all the indigenous people to tell us when this will be. But when that happens, the world is only going to move forward in a positive and beautiful way. Negativity will be a memory. That's about all. I know I'm kind of stepping out there in a way because I'm predicting things that are pretty outrageous, but my teachers all over the world and the indigenous people I work with, they're all in unison at this moment. They all say, do it, say it, go for it, because this is going to happen. And so I believe it. Gaia can do anything, really. And she shows this to many of the people that she feels are okay to show it to. And I've watched her do things. I know she is conscious and she is fully aware of every single last tiny detail on Earth. And she is going to make changes. And what the indigenous people in Canada and the United States feel is that there are going to be many people that leave the Earth. It's not a bad thing. It's just that they are going to, their spirits are going to move into an area of space, time, and dimension where it is more familiar for them to make the kind of changes we're going to go. In other words, they're going home because they came from there before. But who are left over, and it's not a lot of people really, as they kind of project to me. It's still hundreds and hundreds of millions of people, but it's not 6.5 billion. And the people that are left over, they link in their hearts, they become one living being. And they actually say that we turn the Earth into a spaceship and we fly it into a new way of being. From Melchizedek consciousness, the orbit changes of the planet, and it alters the way that we perceive the reality. We've been changing orbit since 1972. I know there's a lot of concerns by people over rapid change. They're worried that they won't have food and water and all these kinds of things, or they'll be just killed by disasters, etc. But it isn't, that's not what is actually happening. It is a transformation in consciousness, planetary-wise. That is actually everywhere. It's not just here, it's everywhere. It's the whole universe is going through a transformation. And if you really understood it, it's nothing to be afraid of at all. It's just like, finally. We're going to reach a level where the changes are going to happen very rapidly. Magic will fill the air. There's no other way to say it from where we are right now, just pure out-and-out magic. If Mother Earth doesn't want you to leave and to be part of the new place, you couldn't do anything to leave no matter what you did. because she would make sure that you are not harmed. If you were supposed to go, then you're going to go. And either way, it is a blessing. God lives within every single person, and you can't harm God. And so it's just we're stepping into a way of being that is so alien to our way of thinking for the last 13,000 years. We've been in polarity consciousness for a long time. And and in polarity consciousness, you're on your own. You have to protect yourself. You have to do everything. It's not about any of those kinds of things. It's just about transformation. Once we get into this transformation and the remembering process clicks in and we go, oh yeah, I remember now. We have to understand that, like I started to say a little while ago, all of life is one. It's totally interconnected. It supports each other. Just within the galaxy, it's like a living being. There's areas that are the heart, that are the liver, the kidneys. They do functions, they work. We do this for you, and it's a flow of energy. And there's nobody out there trying to kill each other. There's little tiny bits of things where they're going through transformation and they don't really understand yet. But 99.9 with about 1,000 nines after it are there to support each other. We are at this moment surrounded by over 250,000 cultures from space that love us, are rooting for us, care about us, and at the right moment we're going to see them, and we're going to know that the world is not out to get us. It just isn't that way. And we're going to realize that there really is a lot more to life than we ever dreamed of. And it's going to be an amazing revelation. Because the world is so much into fear right now, and so afraid and so lost. It doesn't know how to do things, and all the control issues that are everywhere, and the lack of food, and on and on. But life is about to let itself be known on Earth, literally known that it is here. And I wish I could tell you what the indigenous tribes are telling us. I can't yet. Within a year, I will be able to. But by that time, you'll probably know. You just have to breathe and stay connected to Mother Earth and Father Sky and not worry about anything, no matter how it looks. From my tribe, the Taos Pueblo in New Mexico, they just tell us about this time. They just said, when the world starts changing, that's when a lot of people get worried and things get a little crazy. They said, just go inside, close the windows, and just relax and breathe, and it will all pass, and then the light and everything will begin to enter in. They know this. So much of the old world, the ancient world, is really aware of what's happening. We're the last ones to know. And I don't know what to say except life is whole, complete, and perfect. It lacks nothing, and it always has been. And we have chosen to experiment, and we experimented on a particular level of consciousness called good and evil, which means all possibilities, good and bad. And we experimented. We're done with that experiment. And now we're going to go back to something that has already been tried and true, where this experiment that we've been doing for the last 13,000 years, and actually it extends a little more, it goes back about a little over 200,000 years, where that fits into the larger equation of consciousness, I'm not exactly sure. But it was one of the possibilities, and so we did it. but we're now at the end. And so, just relax. Okay, thank you. Well, everybody on Earth came from somewhere else. The Earth is a new planet. It isn't. We're, Earth is on the outer edge of the galaxy. It's a brand new planet. It hasn't been around that long. It's only been around 5.5 billion years. And the galaxy, the universe is at least 16 billion years that we know of. It's older than that, but that's as far as we can prove. Our spirit is infinitely old. And so there's never been a time when we have not existed, and there's never will be a time when we don't exist. And so what that means is everybody came from somewhere else to come here. And we are ETs. The dolphins are ETs. They came from Sirius, and the whales. A lot of Pleiadians are here and have been for a long time. There's people from Aldebaran and all kinds of, all over the place have met here. And they are exactly how these different races are going to do it, I don't know. I do know pretty much how the Syrians are going to do it. Because they are going to be I believe, from what I'm being told through these groups, these ancient groups, that the Syrians are going to be the first ones that are going to make themselves known. And that is because we are their offspring. And they are our father. And they chose to do that. But then after that, what the Mayans say about this time is that the whole universe opens up to us, and we're able to move anywhere and be anywhere we want. Yeah, I understand. This is it's a strange time in a way, because we've been so limited. We've been quarantined on Earth. We haven't been able to leave the room. Somebody locked the door a long time ago. And we're searching for life, and trying to prove that something is there. But that life is going to come here first. It's already here. The 250,000 cultures I mentioned are those that came using vehicles. That means it's the lowest form of life in the universe. They had to actually come here. You don't see Archangel Michael riding around in a spaceship. He doesn't need it. He can be anywhere he wants to be. And the higher levels of consciousness can just be anywhere they want to be. Okay, and thank you. And I hope that people watching this get excited about life, because it's something really beautiful is about to happen.